The Rebel Capitalist Show.
So let's go back to some of your suggestions for cars that people can look into if they want to pay cash. If you just got, and let's start maybe at a $5,000 price point,
Yeah.
maybe let's see, 5,000. Let's do maybe a 10,000 and a 20,000. If you've got cash to pay for a car, if you're like, I like what Eric is saying, I want as much freedom as possible, so I just want to own a car outright in cash. What types of cars should they be looking at those three price points?
Well, I think the best car, in general terms, is an unpopular car. That does not mean it's a bad car. It just means that it's not desirable. And if it's not desirable, it's not going to command premium prices in the market. Tom and I were talking about this the other day.
Yeah, I know where you're going. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, a minivan, people laugh,
yeah.
but another guy that you'll be familiar with, a lot of people who, I think it's Bill Sardi. I think I had this conversation with Bill Sardi about minivans. He's a minivan guy. You know who Bill Sardi is, right?
No.
Okay, well, he's often on Lou Rockwell. He's another commentator out there.
Okay.
His focus is more on medicine and health issues. But at any rate, he talks about the minivan, and I talk about the minivan. It's about the least desirable type of vehicle that there is, unless you have to have one. Why do people buy minivans? They buy them because they've got kids and they need to haul their kids around. Their kids are going to spill junk. They're going to kick the seats. They're going to get mud on the carpets. After 3 or 4 years, the minivan is going to be trashed. It's inevitable, right? Then you got this used minivan that has got juice stains all over the place, and it's got tears in the seats, but it's solid. Mechanically, it's a really solid vehicle. Most minivans are based on very reliable passenger cars. For example, the Toyota Sienna, well, up until this year, it's a hybrid now, but that's a whole other thing. Historically, that has shared guts with the Toyota Camry, including the same 3.5 V6 that's optional in the Camry, which is a brilliant engine. And the Camry is about as reliable as a farmer's anvil. They just don't break. You can put 250,000 miles on those things. The same thing with the Honda Odyssey. That's another excellent van that's very closely related to the Honda Accord. People who know the Accord will know that that's just a really good, reliable vehicle. So minivans are a great choice.
So you could get an old minivan for like $5,000?
Absolutely.
Wow. Like what year?
Well, it depends on miles, and it depends on options. You just have to.
Roughly, do you think you could get like a 10-year-old one or something?
8 to 10 years old. Depending on the
Okay.
mileage. You might have to pay a little bit more, but it's worth every penny. And not just because they're good vehicles; they're actually practical. They're almost as practical as a truck. You take the seats out of those things. I've hauled motorcycles in minivans. You can haul 2x4s. You can haul pallets of cement and bricks in those things. Most of them will tow 3,500 pounds. So they're quite serviceable vehicles. You can park it anywhere. Nobody's going to bother a minivan.
Yeah. Did they make any that are 4x4?
All-wheel drive. Yeah, Toyota offered all-wheel drive in the Sienna. And who else offers the all-wheel drive minivan?
Because you know where I'm
all-wheel drive with the Pacifica and the Voyager vans.
You know where I'm going with this, Eric, is I see more of these Sprinter vans, and I don't know if you see this in your area.
Yes.
I mean, as maybe 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago, I would never see one of these like decked out Sprinter like these bug out Sprinter vans. Now I see 10 of them a day. I just go over to the Whole Foods here across the street, and there's always 3 or 4 of them in the parking lot with these massive tires and mountain bikes in the back. And it seems as though, for obvious reasons, this is becoming very, very popular in today's society, where they want to do the exact opposite of what the global elite want us to do. And they want to get out and away from the insanity of the city. They want to go camping and do all these things. So they're taking these big 4x4 Sprinter vans and decking them out like a little RV that they can cook in there and everything. My question is, could you do the same type of thing with maybe one of these cheaper minivans?
Standard family type van? Sure, absolutely. The Sprinter is a more expensive proposition. Of course, it's a Mercedes to begin with. So, you're going to pay more for that just by dint of the three-pointed star. And it's available with a diesel engine, which is an outstanding feature to have for a variety of reasons. And it can pull more. But yeah, I mean, the standard family type minivan may not be as capable, but it's pretty close. Really
Yeah,
versatile
you could
vehicle.
set it up to where you could camp in it maybe, and you could kind of get out into the woods a little bit.
Yeah, now people are going to laugh for a beater car. You know, want to go back to that $5,000 price point.
Yeah,
Something you might want to look at is Walter White's car, the Pontiac Aztek or the Buick Rendezvous. Hideously ugly,
I
but
remember those.
they're not bad vehicles.
Hmm.
And you can probably if you know pick one of those up for substantially less than $5,000.
And the Aztec was kind of a crossover vehicle, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a crossover. You know, hideously ugly, but very cool. You know, they offered things like you could get a over the counter at the dealer tent kit that bolted to the back of the thing and turned the back of it into a tent.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
all kinds of cool features and dirt cheap, and it has a solid GM V6 drivetrain, nothing elaborate, nothing that's failure prone. You know, if you can stand you know, the sea of oozing injection molded plastic everywhere, and that's just an aesthetic issue, it's a good vehicle.
Well, that's a great suggestion. What about a Quigley van? And I just wrote this down. I don't know much about them, but a good buddy of mine is this is what he does for a living. He sells cars. He's been doing it since we were in college. He owns his own lot and everything. And I know I always hear him talk about how in demand those Quigley vans are.
Okay, now this is a new one for me. I'm not familiar with the Quigley van.
Okay, so Quigley, if I understand it correctly, was a company that would take the what was the van that was it the O'Connell line? I'm trying to think back like 2000, 2001, 2002 when Ford had that van and they had the 7.3 Power Stroke engine in it.
Yeah, the Econo line.
Yeah, and what they would and then the Quigley is like a company like AMG kind of that
Okay.
would take this van and they put a four-wheel drivetrain on it.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, the E350 van is basically a truck, you know, with the van body on it.
Yes, and then so they'd put this four-wheel drivetrain and these big tires on it, and then
Yep.
kind of like that little thing in the top to put all your luggage in there, kind of like a Defender with like the
Yep.
ladder in the back,
Yep.
and then they'd kind of like hollow it out so you could like turn it into whatever you wanted. And I think the company that did that was Quigley.
Yep. There's a number of other small vans in that category that aren't truck based, but are nonetheless interesting to look at. Nissan makes something called the NV van, and then there's a larger version of that that's based on the Titan truck. And Ford also has a Transit and the Transit Connect vans. And you can get these in stripped down, completely Spartan, just a metal shell configuration, brand new. And then you could do whatever you want to them. You know, you can turn it into a nice RV camper, or you can turn it into a contractor truck, whatever you want. Build it to suit.
Okay, great. So that gives some ideas for some cheaper price kind of bug out vehicles. I could talk about that for the next hour, but I want to step it up a little bit to the $10,000 price point. If someone's got $10,000 in cash, they're looking for a good, solid car that's going to last them and give them that personal freedom. What would you suggest?
Well, I'd either go for something. I'd go for probably a Toyota Camry, a Toyota Avalon. If you want something that's a little bit beefier, something like a Dodge Charger, Honda Accord, a Hyundai Sonata is a good car. Any one of these mid-sized sedans that is kind of generic and nondescript, but has an established reputation for being a really good car. And after 10 years, it's going to be very affordable and will probably give you another 10 or 15 years of service without having to do more to it than basic usual maintenance, oil and filter changes.
Can you get a good solid truck at that price point that could tow maybe an RV?
Not anymore, unfortunately. What was the number that I read about this recently? The average price of used vehicles is up more than 30% in the past 12 months.
Mm.
And trucks are the tip of the spear. Truck prices have gone completely batty. I could turn around right now and sell my '02 Nissan that I bought used back in '08 for $7,500 for about $7,500.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember our last conversation, but I used to basically buy and collect 1990 from 95 to 2002 Ford F-250s and F-350s.
I do
It's just like
remember.
a store of value, and I've still got 4 of them. I'm not mistaken. I think 4 of them, and most of them have under 100,000 miles,
Yeah.
and they're all 7.3 diesels.
Oh gosh, dude, you know what those things are worth now.
Yeah, I mean the one I have just right here at my apartment is a 2001 F350 crew cab long bed, 7.3 diesel. It's got 70,000 miles on it. I bought that thing for $7,000 in 2017. Now, just doing the comps on eBay, I mean, you probably know better than I would, but it's probably $35,000.
Isn't that crazy? And part of the reason for that is there's nothing comparable any longer that's new. You can't get anything like that anymore. You know, you can get a diesel, you have to go up, well, any kind of a decent diesel, you have to go up to a 2,500.
Let's go back to the $20,000 price point.
Well, if you got $20,000 to spend, you're in, generally speaking, pretty good stead. Except, of course, in the context of a lot of what's going on now with the prices of used trucks, for example. But if you have 20 grand, there are all sorts of options open to you for nice vehicles. You know, you could get, heck, you could get a nearly new loaded V6 powered Camry, probably about a 4-year-old model, I would think, 4 or 5-year-old model. And that's a great car, by the way. It's a super sleeper. People who don't know it I had a buddy of mine, actually, I got to talking to him about it. He's got a Trans Am like I've got, except a newer one, and he's really hung up on performance. And I said, dude, why don't you check out a V6 Camry? It'll smoke your Trans Am. He's got like I think it's a 99 or a 2000 Trans Am. No. And I said, yeah, seriously, check it out. The V6 Camry will do 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, and trust me, your stock,
wow,
your stock 99 Trans Am is not doing it in 5 seconds.
I remember back in the day, I had a 911, not a turbo, but a 911 Carrera S, the 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And it did 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, if I remember. Right. It was probably like a 2004 or 5, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, the power and performance that is routinely available today it's striking. Almost any car that you get today, like you talk about let's say a middle of the road crossover SUV type of vehicle, that's going to get to 60 in 7 or so seconds. That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, for your basic crossover family mobile.
No kidding. Okay, so at 20 grand, what would you suggest as far as a truck to pull like an RV?
Oh boy, if $20,000 for a truck to pull an RV, depends on if you really want to pull a heavy RV, you got a problem now because, well, not necessarily. I don't know. I've got to go look and see what they're going for now. If I had that kind of money and I needed to pull something substantial, when you say an RV, I'm assuming something that's more
like a trailer, like a 30-foot Airstream or something.
Yeah, I'd probably want to go back to like the mid 90s and look for a CK 1500 Chevy or an F-150. Something like that, something like one of your trucks. You could probably pick that up without the diesel for around that if you shop carefully. Now, Chevy made a great truck back then with the 305 or the 350 V8 throttle body injection, and it was available with a 5-speed manual transmission, which would be my pick, just because it's a whole lot of fun to drive. Might not be absolutely ideal for towing. You might want an automatic for that purpose, but you could probably snatch one of those up if you look carefully and act quickly.
Yeah, for sure. At 20 grand, you could get you might be able to get a 7.3 with like 250,000 miles on it, something like that. You could definitely get a 460. Yeah, that's for sure. It's just 460 is not gonna get more than 5 miles to the gallon. And let's see, you might be able to get like a 2000 standard cab, an XL. Remember the XLs?
I do. Yep.
So the XL were kind of stripped down, kind of like a more industrial use.
Yep.
And I think they made the XL even, in fact, I know they did. They made the XL even in a crew cab.
Yep. And that 460, by the way, pretty simple engine. Yeah, it gets 5 or 6 miles per gallon, but you can take that thing apart and put it back together and have it be good as new for about $3,000-4,000 bucks.
Super cheap. Yeah, that's for sure. Super cheap to fix those things.